Jerry Miller, thank you kindly for joining us. The Wednesday edition of the I Love CVille Show, the day after a city council meeting that was an absolute clown show last night. I watched it from start to finish. The meeting lasted more than 4 hours. And over that 4-hour period of time, it was chaos, debauchery.
I don't know about that.
Clown-like behavior, profanities, heckling, far from law and order. The opposite of law and order, chaos. You'll see it. We're going to provide clips for you from City Council's meeting last night as activists in this community have yet again organized and strategized to bully local government into policy or policy lack thereof that would have improved quality of life in Charlottesville, Virginia. If you're now watching the program for the first time, the topic du jour last night was this homeless ordinance that would have set a benchmark or established some protocols for managing the houseless population in the city that is clearly impacting quality of life, in particular in downtown Charlottesville, in particular along the Rivanna River, and in particular in many of the parks in the city of Charlottesville. Chief Kochis presented this ordinance to council. Michael Payne explained what the de facto protocols are now for managing the homeless. If there's a phone call from a citizen or a taxpayer, a homeowner or a tenant that is voicing concerns, this is what the city does now. Michael Payne explained it. Greer Achenbach spoke in the public portion, aspect of the meeting, the public portion, time of comment in the meeting. And she was, goodness gracious, just arrows were shot at her. Verbal arrows were shot at her from those in council chambers. Bryant, who's running for city council, school board, Bryant, the activist Bryant, who first gained notoriety for the Robert E. Lee statue press conference that she did in Market Street Park, along with Wes Bellamy, the same Bryant who went to UVA and trying to ruin the life of Morgan Benninger, another UVA student, and what was proven to be completely false claims of racism and racist rhetoric that Morgan Benninger allegedly muttered but never did, that led to her expulsion. Now Bryant's running for school board, probably a favorite to win a spot on Charlottesville School Board. Bryant, she spoke last night. Jeff Fogel, the activist attorney, spoke last night. This is the same Jeff Fogel that filed a lawsuit against the city of Charlottesville in 2013. A lawsuit in 2013, attorney Jeff Fogel filed on behalf of 5 panhandlers. And Jeff Fogel, the attorney, said these 5 panhandlers, that their constitutional rights were being violated by Charlottesville City when it came to panhandling. And somehow a U.S. district judge by the name of Norman Moon basically aligned with Fogel's argument and supported these 5 panhandlers and said not only is panhandling allowed on the downtown mall, but the city of Charlottesville is going to have to pay the lawyer fees, the expenses, and the unspecified damages of these 5 panhandlers. So Charlottesville, according to Jeff Fogel, forked over a 6-figure check to these 5 panhandlers, which covered in part his legal expenses. Fogel, emotional, angry, verbose last night. We'll show clips of his public portion, his public comments in last night's meeting. We're going to talk on today's show. It was lost in the shuffle. Any other city council meeting, this would have been the lead on today's program. The newly minted city attorney, and get his name for me. I believe the newly minted city attorney, he's been on the job like a cup of coffee, a New York Minute. Find his name for me. I believe his last name is Maddox. The newly minted city attorney offered commentary while sitting on the dais on what the law firm Gentry Locke, this is the law firm that missed the filing deadline with the new zoning ordinance, made the city look like they don't have their you-know-what together. He said, you know what, we kept Gentry Locke around and we did it under certain protocols that we are enforcing. The city's got big-time leverage against Gentry Locke. Gentry Locke has done a lot of the work since missing that filing deadline for free. The city got one of the Gentry Locke attorneys who missed the filing deadline booted from the case and replaced with senior partners who are working at a vastly discounted rate. And had things not gone the right way for the city, Gentry Locke was going to fork over $150,000 in damages to the city. No wonder Gentry Locke rolled out their senior partnership and their most talented attorneys for this case, with $150,000 of Gentry Locke's own money on the line. Goodness gracious, this show has got so much content, so much conversation when it regards to Charlottesville and Central Virginia for you, the viewer and listener. One of the headlines that I don't even have time for is something that I need to lead with, although it's not on the rundown. I want to highlight some positivity that's happening in Albemarle County, guys, some positivity that's happening in Charlottesville City, some positivity that's happening in Central Virginia. Goodness gracious, is that the police driving by the studio right now to try to get law and order in council chambers? A little too late after what happened last night, and we'll show it to you. Get ready and giddy up. First, the positivity. I touched on this briefly yesterday. Rock Revolution, a new climbing gym and bouldering gym on Old Ivy Road, is now open. It is the hard work of Jessica and Mike Kinnick. And ladies and gentlemen, this gym is a fantastic business for this community. The Kinnicks took an office building that was empty, the former home to Pure Bar on the first floor, and on the second and third floors, just basically empty office space that had been vacated because of COVID and the pandemic. And the Kinnicks revitalized, innovated, and created a family-friendly climbing gym that caters to children, avid and experienced climbers, novices, folks that are looking to do yoga, strength training, climbing, and indoor activity not tied to screens for kids. The Old Ivy Road location is perfect with its proximity to the interstate, the bypass, the urban ring, schools and neighborhoods everywhere. It's Rock Revolution, online at climbrockrevolution.com. I'm so impressed with the Kinnick's hard work. And the grand opening was this past weekend. And viewers and listeners, if you're looking for something to do, Rock Revolution on Old Ivy Road, locally owned and operated, is just an impressive, positive contribution to our business community. Rock Revolution, ladies and gentlemen. All right, I think we need to get into the council meeting last night. I want to highlight Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, 61 years in business, Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. John Vermillion and Andrew Vermillion, the owners, their family, the Vermillions, are 5 generations strong in Albemarle County. Their business is 3 generations of family strong. East High Street and online at charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com. The Vermillions, ladies and gentlemen, honest, communicative, hardworking, good people, salt of the earth people, Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. Judah Wickhauer, studio camera, 2-shot. We'll start with Chief Kochis here in a matter of moments. Before we get to Chief Kochis, I genuinely am going to ask you, a voice of reason in this community, how last night's city council meeting, do you interpret it any other way than clown show, humiliation, out of control, missing law and order, a mayor, a vice mayor, and council that enforce no order of any capacity, allowed folks in the crowd to speak nilly-willy whenever they wanted,
Pretty much.
allowed them to attack people in the public comment portion, which we will show. I mean, what did you see last night?
I mean, from what I saw, and I didn't watch the whole thing like Jerry did, but it seems as though City Council kind of left Kochis under the bus. I don't know that they threw him under the bus, but There was no response about that I saw when accusations were made that I believe Fogel, who was especially egregious because as a lawyer he should know better. He should know what this is about, and his words painted a picture that this was a surprise attack. This was foisted on the people of the city of Charlottesville, and that they were given no time. I believe Gillikin made accusations in a similar vein that this should have been not foreshadowed, but they should have given more notice of this. The fact of the matter is, this was a first view of the ordinance, and it wasn't meant to be hey, here's this ordinance, we're going to vote on it today. They even said, as you and I saw,
Juan Diego Wade, to start the meeting last night, said, we are not going to take a vote on this homeless ordinance.
yeah.
Exact words. There's a lot of people in here. We are not going to take a vote on this homeless ordinance. Mm-hmm. And still the clown show
and yet
showed
rhetoric.
its face in ways that we have not seen since the Nikiah Walker era.
There was a lot of rhetoric. There was a lot of fever-pitched emotion from the anti-side of this equation. There was a lot of level-headedness from both Police Chief Kochis, who presented on the ordinance, and Greer Achenbach, who represented, and you've got to give her credit for her bravery, because she said herself that she was standing in for a lot of the downtown shop owners who wanted to be there, who wanted someone to represent them, but were afraid, and rightfully so, because of the pushback, the clapback from the anti-side.
The only people, ladies and gentlemen, in downtown Charlottesville and in the business community in the city of Charlottesville, there are literally two people that are speaking up in favor of the city finding a solution for this homeless management conundrum we're in. One of them is Greer Achenbach, the executive director of Friends of CVille. The other person is me. That's it. Mm-hmm. No one else has the balls, the courage, or the gumption on record to talk like we talk about the solutions needed for this city. And last night you saw 5 counselors, Juan Diego Wade, Bryant Pinkston, Natalie Oshrin, Michael Payne, and Lloyd Snook, who's right down the hall from us with his law firm. Right down the hall from our studio. You saw 5 counselors get bullied and intimidated and ramrodded like they were the small kid on the playground with a bag of Skittles in their hand. And the big boy comes over, shoves them against the brick wall, and takes the Skittles out of his hands and throws the empty wrapper at the runt kid's loafers. That's what happened last night. We're going to give you video clips, viewers and listeners, tag a friend. No one's giving you the content like this. First, Police Chief Kochis, and I empathize for Mike Kochis here. I gain even more respect for Mike Kochis here. There's no question that City Council put Mike Kochis on an island yesterday, and they did not protect their police chief.
Yeah.
Mike Kochis was on a little raft in the middle of the ocean. He had no life vest, no preserver, and no way to get to dry land. Council left him out at sea to die last night. Here's the police chief speaking in front of a packed council chambers on a homeless ordinance that was on the agenda last night. No vote was going to happen, but 200 activists in this community intimidated the city to not only put this ordinance on the back shelf, but table it indefinitely.
Which means that if anyone decides to bring another ordinance, this ordinance or another ordinance before the city council, it'll be the first instance again.
Yeah.
Which I believe normally there's a first and then there's a second, unless the council decides to vote on the first.
200 people dictating the pace and tempo of what the city of Charlottesville is going to do. First, Mike Kochis on the ordinance last night. 3, 2, 1.
commitment this council has shown in working towards that goal. And at the same time, I've spent many hours over the years meeting with, listening to members of our unhoused community. These are overwhelmingly great people who want the same basic dignity and stability we all do. Many have shared with me that they understand and even welcome reasonable rules. What we often see, however, is that a smaller number of unsafe and hazardous encampments create the greatest challenges and cause harm to others. Tonight, what I am presenting is a legal framework designed to help us respond to those unsafe and hazardous situations with clarity and consistency. We owe it to our unhoused neighbors to ensure their safety just as much we do for our housed neighbors. We owe it to our business community. We are directly affected by unsafe encampments. And we owe it to our entire city to approach this issue with compassion, fairness, and responsibility. And so with that, we'll start, there we go, the timeline. So this process, like I said, began on April 3rd, 2025, during my 221s with each of you, where concerns about these encampments and their impact on quality of life were raised. Since then, or at that time, I was instructed to begin the process of drafting an ordinance. And just to be clear, there was a lot of conversation around the executive order that came out in July, and I will agree that's not helpful, as are most executive orders we're seeing these days. But I'll digress when it talks about these executive orders. Once we were instructed to begin that process of drafting that ordinance, we developed an internal working group. That working group consisted of the city members of the city.
This is actual footage from last night's council meeting. Chief Kochis presenting before the councilors. Throughout this presentation, Chief Kochis' presentation, which was somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes, the members in the audience were screaming at him, were heckling him, were demanding who originated this ordinance.
Which he explained, which is...
There's not a single person on the dais that raised their hand and said, we originated this ordinance. Maybe Michael Payne kind of did it.
Yeah.
Not a single member on council was willing to say this into a microphone. We instructed Sam Sanders or Mike Kochis to pursue this ordinance. No one did that.
And you just heard Chief Kochis essentially say, I've spoken with everyone on council.
Right.
Starting April 3rd.
He said in his 221s, meaning Chief Kochis and two councilors, because if three councilors get together in one meeting, it's an official meeting. But two can get together and it be an unofficial meeting.
Yeah.
So Chief Kochis is literally, read it between the lines, saying, you told me to do this.
We've spoken.
And none of the people on council said, we are the ones that did it, because they feared the fallout of the 200 in the audience. There were multiple moments during Chief Kochis' 10 to 15 minute presentation where the man showed composure that very few of us would have had. Mm-hmm. There were multiple times where he stopped speaking, and he literally had to take a husa moment where he was like, deep breath, in, out. Don't let these people rattle you, because that's what they want. And the dude did it with class.
Yeah. Like
class and composure. I hope Chief Kochis hears me say that. Class and composure. Mm-hmm. The next clip I want to highlight is Councilor Michael Payne. He is talking in this clip, which we're about to play from last night's meeting, with Chief Kochis. He's asking questions of the police chief. Michael Payne is. This is a two-term councilor, Michael Payne. And in this clip we're going to play you, he explains on the record what the de facto protocol is if a Charlottesvillian, a taxpayer, a small business owner, a homeowner, a renter, just an average Joe or an average Sally calls about a homeless issue, like someone yelling at you. How many of you have been yelled by the homeless somewhere in Charlottesville?
I think his explanation essentially says that if one person calls, nothing is going to happen.
Hear Michael Payne. He says, and that's, I don't think that's the take I got.
He says if there are enough emails, if there are enough complaints, then we'll send The police.
The police have to go out to manage this. Do you understand the unenviable position that Mike Kochis' police department is in right now?
If I were him, I would say we're not going to do it.
Chief Kochis and his police department are in a terrible position where they are the Band-Aid,
the
boogeyman to manage the houseless problem that's Charlottesville. Because council has put the police department in this position. It's poor leadership that's put the police department in this position. Let's play this clip. I'm setting the stage for you. This is Michael Payne talking about what the de facto protocols are for council, for city of Charlottesville with issues with the houseless right now. 3, 2, 1.
Your questions and comments, sir?
I mean, the other issue, which is obvious, and this is beyond your purview, so I don't know if I guess it's more of a comment or really a question, but the obvious issue is, the de facto strategy of the city at this point is when there is an encampment and we start to get emails of a complaint about it, you all end up... You are called.
And we respond.
And you respond.
With no legal
And that's
authority.
not your choice. You are not jumping up and down to say, I want to do that.
We are not.
But so the de facto strategy of the city at this point is encampments are there when once there's enough emails that there's a vague sense that it's an issue, you all end up getting called out there, you ask people to leave, they go to a different location. The process repeats again. And I just don't... how does this change that situation? It adds a layer of potential criminalization on top of it, but but I know that's beyond your, because the fundamental issue is we can go out there with social services providers, but there's no permanent supportive housing or overnight shelter to direct them to. And you've acknowledged that, you know that.
Of course.
But I'm just struggling to see how this plays out beyond just people end up dispersing into woods in the urban ring, or people will still make the decision, like, you ask me to move and there's a threat of criminalization, sure, I'll do it, but they don't have any, they're going to end up somewhere else until they get a home. What's the practical effect of this in terms of changing where our status quo is right now? And I know that's far beyond just...
Yeah, sir, and we've spoken about this, all of us. I'm not sure there's a good answer, sir. It really isn't. And look, this doesn't solve the issue. I will tell you that there's not a meeting or conversation I have with my boss, the city manager, that this isn't something we talk about, whether it be trying to find a low barrier shelter, or trying to find places for people to go that are safer than under a bridge where the water rises quickly. This is a complex issue. This is one piece of it. But again, that's why that last slide is pros and cons of it. And at the end of the day, it's this body's decision.
This man cannot tell a lie.
John.
Payne and Kochis' interaction right there, where Chief Kochis is about as genuine as a person as you're going to find when he's like, I'm not sure I have the answer. You know why the police chief doesn't have the answer here? Because it's not the police chief or the police department's responsibility to manage this.
And that's why an ordinance is needed. He laid it out. He said, Chief Kochis said there's when Payne said you get called out because there are enough complaints, and Chief Kochis said yes, with no legal framework with how to respond. His boss is the city manager. The city manager can tell Chief Kochis to send police to an encampment, but without a legal framework,
He can do nothing.
all he can do is talk to the people, because he's not a
Social worker,
He's
a
not
drug counselor.
He's not the Gestapo.
He's not a liaison. He's not the Gestapo. He's not the police that we saw during the time of World War II in Germany. This guy told Chief Kochis, and we are not playing this clip because the show is an hour, and we're going to play 4 other clips for you, including Bryant, who's probably going to win a spot on Charlottesville School Board, Jeff Fogel, who was one of the driving forces with legalizing panhandling in Charlottesville, Greer Achenbach, who got verbally targeted like you haven't seen in a long time in council chambers, and City Attorney Maddox is what's his first name?
John Maddox.
John Maddox, talking about the Gentry Locke compensation relationship and how the city has held this third-party law firm accountable for missing a filing deadline. A lot still to come on the program, ladies and gentlemen. But Chief Kochis, in last night's meeting, literally said the encampment under Freebridge on Pantops, he highlighted that with that encampment, the homeless that are in that encampment or were in that encampment before it was moved by the police department, asked the police department prior to see if an alarm could be installed at the dam when the water was released. The homeless said that the water under Freebridge at that dam, at that point, comes in so quickly whenever the gate is open, the dam is open, the water comes in so quickly that they are unprepared for the release of that water. Their possessions get swept away, and some of the houseless in that encampment have been caught in this surge of water, and it's extremely unsafe. And Chief Kochis is like, this is a perfect example, guys, of an encampment being unsafe and why we need an ordinance to manage this encampment. It's not necessarily violence that's happening here. It's risk of someone's life from the release of water from this dam. And they're telling us they need an alarm to live and survive. Chief Kochis literally goes before council, hat in hand, speaking before 5 counselors who are his superiors. He's literally calling Michael Payne and Natalie Oshrin, which basically are his slightly older than his children, yes ma'am, yes sir, like clearly showing them respect, and they don't return the professional respect back and protecting him from the hecklers in the audience.
I was particularly disappointed in Councilor Payne.
You think his commentary was disingenuous?
During the clip that we just showed, he makes no mention of the fact that he's been meeting with Chief Kochis. Chief Kochis even mentions we've spoken about this. His questions sound like this is the first he's hearing about this, as if he doesn't understand why we would need an ordinance. He talks about the fact that when we send you to go talk to somebody and move them, they move somewhere else, and the cycle starts over again. Okay, that's understandable, but that's no reason to not create laws that give the police a framework with which to respond to the struggles
to do their job
that we're dealing with.
And we need to highlight the ordinance, ladies and gentlemen. If the houseless population is camping in an area they should not, the police, under this ordinance, if it was approved, it was not approved, it was tabled indefinitely, but if it was approved, the police would give the houseless individual who's camping in a spot illegally 10 days notice to move. After the 10 days notice, if the individual is still there, they say, respectfully, you have to move. They don't fine them. They don't arrest them at that point. Respectfully, we've given you 10 days notice, you have to move. We'll even help you by storing your belongings for 60 days. If at that point the houseless individual still does not listen, he gets a small fine. It's a misdemeanor 4. That is no jail time. No jail time, ladies and gentlemen. No arrest. It's like a ticket.
And I believe Chief Kochis also explained later on that there's also no framework for chasing down people for small fines, which means that all of the rhetoric claiming that this is somehow criminalizing the houseless
is disingenuous at best.
Because this is not a punitive measure; it's a law measure, so that
it's just a framework.
If this does end up in a courtroom, you can point to the fine that was levied and say it's it's paperwork. It's basically a paper trail saying, look, we've done our due diligence. We've asked people to move. We gave a fine, and they haven't done so. Now we have to escalate if it comes to that. But without that, there is no paper trail. What do you have?
Lawlessness.
We went and talked to the people.
That's it. Which is not going to stand up in any court.
And we don't want to see this in court, and nobody does.
Payne was
But
absolutely disingenuous with his commentary and interaction with the police chief.
I was very disappointed.
Having it come across as if this was the first time to save face with the 200 in attendance. Throughout that entire meeting, council members made the reference of, we got a couple hundred emails from activists about this. A couple hundred. I continue to say on the record, on this platform, that has, across all platforms, we have the biggest following in this region except for UVA. And I continue to say on our platform that it's 200 people, activists in this community, that are dictating policy and tempo for Charlottesville City and impacting quality of life. We saw it again last night. I want to play more clips from last night. I want to play Ziana Bryant here. This is the activist that got the Robert E. Lee statue removed when she was in middle school, high school. She went to UVA, got into some serious dog doo-doo at UVA when she claimed a classmate in Morgan Benninger on Water Street during a Black Women's Matter protest on Water Street. She claimed that Ziana Bryant claimed that Morgan Benninger said that if this Charlottesville City work truck wasn't here to keep traffic from flowing on Water Street, it was basically a barricade, all these people would be speed bumps. Ziana Bryant then used her Twitter following, which is massive, huge, ginormous, to attack Morgan Benninger online, had Benninger drummed up on honor charges where she was expelled from the school.
In abeyance.
And then Benninger, with the benefit of hindsight and a little bit of research and investigation, they find out that Benninger did not even say it to Ziana Bryant. She heard it third party, from someone else, like the game Telephone. And that Benninger didn't even mean it about the protesters. She was just having a conversation with the city employee whose vehicle was the protection, the blockade, saying it's a good thing you're here. These people, goodness gracious, they would be unsafe. They could be potentially speed bumps.
Somebody might have not seen them and yeah.
Jim Ryan didn't even stand up for Morgan Benninger in retrospect. Yeah. And nothing happened to Ziana Bryant, and now she's running for school board. Listen to Ziana Bryant last night, making a reference to the I Love CVille brand. Judah Wickower in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, we're close. Yeah.
Good evening, Ziana Bryant, Charlottesville resident. I first just want to say, before I go into my official comments, Jen, thank you for running, because, yeah. Anyway, hopefully it's tabled until Jen gets on. But anyway, I think that today really showed me that the blue heart thing, the I Love CVille, whatever that was, that the Downtown Business Association did after August 12, 2017 meant nothing. How do we know that? Because the Charlottesville that they love so much doesn't include unhoused people. I think that's pretty clear. And so, I could do the whole profound comments about how we should be caring for each other, which there's a place for that, and I feel like everyone has already said that. I'm really saddened by the fact that Mr. Pinkston said, but. He said, community members' voices matter, but the business owners matter, blah, blah, blah. And it's just very clear that there's no room for nuance here. People are picking sides, and unfortunately there are some counselors who are prioritizing profit over people, and that's very clear. I think it goes without saying that the downtown mall is often dead because we don't need that many trinkets and pottery shops. We need things to do. And I mean that not in a disrespectful manner, but I'm saying that when people go downtown for the Tom Tom Fest, it's because there's actually some entertainment. It's because there's actually something for multicultural, folks who are looking for multicultural fun to be able to enjoy something. There are go-go bands. When that happens at Fridays After 5, you see black people. When they're not there, you don't see them. I don't think it's rocket science. So when we talk about the businesses that we're protecting, let's really think about how black-owned businesses are not able to do well on the downtown law, and that's not new. And people have said that for decades. In fact, it's been said since before I was even born. And so it's just like, I feel like we continue to talk in circles, but the reality is that you guys or someone, whether it was the city manager, no one's gonna say that they came up with the idea. So, I mean, there's no point in us playing the guessing game. We can kind of assume who had the idea for the whole ordinance to come up, and we can base that off of past things that they've said. But ultimately, the ordinance is a terrible idea. We know that. And it's just very sickening to see how we got back to business as usual. We had so many people in the community begging for civility in these meetings, people not to come and shout or bring signs and protest during the meetings. And as soon as we got back to that business as usual, quiet, quick meetings, things like this happened. Luckily, we had some people who paid attention to make sure that the community came out to speak up tonight. But if we didn't, that ordinance would probably have been approved. So again, thank you, Jen, for running. And I hope to quickly, everyone who supports the unhoused community and supports striking this ordinance, do you mind standing if you're able? It's always good to see the support in the room. And now we know who's on what side. Thank you.
So that, ladies and gentlemen, is I Bryant, who's probably going to be a Charlottesville School Board member when she's elected in November. And one of a couple of people that's going to be trusted with managing a nearly $100 million yearly public school budget in Charlottesville. Which I want everybody to consider that. Do what you want with that. Favored to win, one of a few people that will be trusted to manage the public school system of Charlottesville, Virginia. Now, I want to play more public comment highlights. Maybe you call them lowlights from last night. How about Jeff Fogel's comments? Jeff Fogel is an attorney. He ran for the Democratic nomination for the Charlottesville's Commonwealth's Attorney in 2017. He lost to Joe Platania. Jim Hingley corrected me on the pronunciation of Plantania. Says I throw an extra N in there with Plantania. I'm taking that N out, and Jim Hingley, I love and respect you tremendously. Plantania.
You just used it again.
He lost to Joe.
You mean Joe lost to...
Jeff lost to Joe.
Jeff, wait, I thought... Oh, yeah.
Jeff lost to Joe.
Jeffs and Joes.
Jeff is the attorney who wrangled up 5 panhandlers in 2013, filed a lawsuit against the city, saying these 5 panhandlers, their liberties, their constitutional rights include panhandling. Somehow, a judge by the name of Norman Moon voted in favor of these panhandlers and sided with Jeff Fogel's legal argument. The city had to pay according to Jeff, significant 6-figure payout to the panhandlers. As part of the payout, it was legal expenses for Jeff, damages, lawyer fees, etc. Now Jeff Fogel is getting back into the homeless news cycle with comments in last night's city council meeting. Get ready and giddy up for this. Jeff Fogel in 3, 2, 1.
Thank you and good evening. When I first heard about the ordinance to criminalize the homeless, I was shocked, followed by absolute fury that continues to this day that you would even discuss an issue of making people who are suffering from a lack of shelter into criminals. It's disgusting. Your city attorney has relied on a decision by the Supreme Court of the right wing of the Supreme Court. Is that where we stand? Donald Trump has asked all the cities to prohibit sleeping and camping. Are we with Donald Trump? We don't even know who this came from. It was just dropped on the agenda. There was no community engagement, as has usually been required, because there was absolutely none. Nobody was talked to. Not the service providers, not the people who have cared about this issue. It is absolutely and completely infuriating, outrageous, unconscionable, and inhuman for you to even consider an ordinance like this as any kind of solution to the problem we face here in Charlottesville. You have gotten the solutions. You know the solutions. They range from what the service providers are urging you to do, set aside an area of the city where people can camp out. And they range to what we should be doing, which is building housing. Building housing, because the solution to homelessness is housing, not the criminal law. And to characterize everybody in this community who's unsheltered as a criminal is disgusting. And I'm hoping that any one of you who has, we don't know who proposed this. Is any one of you willing, have the courage to stand up and say, I propose this? Let's see if you have that courage. Because if you do vote for this, we're going to be laser focused on your inhumanity.
Thank you.
That's Attorney Jeff Fogel, who in very large part should be credited with panhandling in downtown Charlottesville.
And should be teaching rhetoric at UVA.
You know, the crazy thing is, I was watching this at home. And it was like enthralling. I couldn't keep my eyes off it, like a train wreck. But the terribly sad thing is it's where I live, in the city where my businesses are based out of.
Yeah.
The jurisdiction right next to the county where we're raising our kids. So it was like enthralling and engaging, entertaining and educating, enlightening, but also at the very same time, demoralizing and depressing. Now we're going to play Greer Achenbach. And the courage to be Greer Achenbach, the executive director of Friends of CVille here. She goes before council last night, as a representative of the business community in downtown Charlottesville, to highlight the impact the homeless population is having on the local economy in Charlottesville. And listen to what Greer does with her presentation and how she backs her presentation up with anecdotes and facts. One of the anecdotes she utilizes is the closure of Alakazam Toy Store in the downtown mall, where the owner of Alakazam has said that foot traffic and sales are down 30+% and can be attributable to families, parents not feeling as willing or as safe to bring their kids on the mall to shop at a toy store. Greer Achenbach takes verbal arrows, verbal bazookas from the 200 activists that are in City Hall. Listen to this. Greer Achenbach, Executive Director of Friends of CVille, the lobbying group that represents the business community in downtown Charlottesville. 3, 2, 1.
Hi, my name is Greer Achenbach. I am Executive Director of Friends of Charlottesville Downtown. I am here to speak in favor of the ordinance on camping and storage on city property.
Please.
Friends of Charlottesville Downtown is by nature not...
It's a serious moral issue. You don't need to get it.
Not a political organization. Our mission is to stimulate social and economic vitality, which puts me in the very unenviable position tonight to speak on behalf
Please, let her speak.
Look at this brave woman here.
I represent many visitors and business owners who are afraid to speak in favor of this ordinance for fear they will be misrepresented in a way that affects their businesses and their families. We have a serious problem on the downtown mall, and the lack of ordinances is leading to a decrease in visitors and business activity. We agree with Mr. Fogel that there should be a designated camping area in the city until we can provide enough shelter beds. but it should not be in our business district. The city has invested millions of dollars into the downtown mall and seen a return on that investment tenfold in the form of tax revenue. You have a fiduciary responsibility to protect the tax base that funds vital social programs. The downtown mall is one of our community's most valued public spaces. It serves as a destination for residents, families, and tourists alike, as well as a vital lifeline for the small businesses that line it.
I work in a small business with those people every day.
Please.
Unfortunately, when visitors encounter encampments and cluttered belongings, aggressive panhandling, the atmosphere of the mall is diminished.
They should change their heart.
Please, sir.
This perception not only discourages tourism and local engagement, but threatens the long-term vitality of the businesses that rely on that foot traffic. Case in point, Alakazam Toy Store, an iconic business on the mall that has been here for 19 years, is now closing its doors. The owner cited a 35% decline in sales, attributing much of it to families no longer feeling comfortable bringing their children to the mall. Thank you. San Francisco is a cautionary example of what happens when cities delay action. Despite years of efforts and hundreds of millions of dollars spent towards programs and homeless shelters, the crisis only worsened until ordinance were put in place. Charlottesville is now at a similar crossroads. We understand that there are people that there is a small contingent of vocal people who feel that these ordinances are considered lacking conscience. But this is a dangerous position to take. A thriving city and a downtown mall benefits the entire city culturally, socially, and economically. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. John, have a seat. Arthur Long, please, sir. John, please sit down.
Should I talk? We're back.
Guys, that's Greer Achenbach of Friends of CVille, heckled throughout her public comments by those in attendance. I am thoroughly disappointed with Mayor Juan Diego Wade and how he managed this meeting. I hope Juan Diego Wade hears this. Thoroughly disappointed with him. Juan Diego Wade, ladies and gentlemen, did not protect Mike Kochis or Greer Achenbach from those in attendance who chose to heckle both members of our community. And if you remember, when Kevin Cox spoke before council about the crosswalk that he spray painted on, was it Cherry Avenue?
Elliott
Avenue? Kevin Cox was calling out, and Deep Throat puts this on my radar, calling out Brennan Duncan, the traffic engineer, and Brian Pinkston immediately shut Kevin Cox down for poor behavior in council meeting for going after Brennan Duncan. Why did Brian Pinkston and Juan Diego Wade, and why did Michael Payne and Natalie Oshrin and Lloyd Snook not utilize the same strategy that they did with Kevin Cox, a man who's a traffic and pedestrian and walker activist and advocate, with a spray-painted crosswalk where he's speaking before council, calling out Brennan Duncan, the traffic engineer. They shut Kevin Cox down, yet they don't protect their police chief, and they don't protect the executive director of the lobbying group, Friends of CVille, because those 5 councilors would have looked bad in front of 200 people and would have lost a popularity contest amongst 200 activists in council chambers.
Yeah, I would call that a cancel culture mob.
Bingo.
I think. I don't know that any of them would pose a danger, but it's certainly. I think having Chief Kochis there certainly kept things to just catcalls and boos.
If the police chief is going to get heckled, catcalled, and booed, imagine what an average citizen is going to face.
She could have cut her have cut her talking time in half if she wasn't being interrupted every 3 seconds.
Exactly. Now, one other element came up.
I thought of something while I was listening to her, and it's interesting. I was just thinking that if there was a solution to the problem of the houseless on the downtown mall, the reason why she was standing up and braving the slings and arrows of an unruly crowd, boosting the bottom line, giving a boost to the downtown mall. If the downtown mall was as populated as it was pre-pandemic, pre people sleeping in doorways on the downtown mall, the tax money brought in the downtown mall could be used to spend on social services and shelter for those same homeless that this is all about.
Here's what Judah is saying very succinctly. Economic development and the tax revenue that's generated from economic development and a strong small business ecosystem can be allocated to fund resources for the homeless.
Yeah.
But by shitting on economic development and by raining on small business, you're impacting your tax base, which limits the opportunity to fund resources for the houseless. That's extremely obvious. And we have other things we got to go ahead.
And could eventually lead to raising taxes on rooftops because not enough taxes that are coming in from business.
Which would cause
retail.
more houselessness.
Yeah.
And it's so obvious.
And all because of a lack of willingness to
a lack of leadership
to act.
A lack of leadership is what this is about.
Yeah.
We have one other clip we need to play. My 1:30 is literally waiting outside our office right now. This last clip, if you want to put the lower thirds on screen, is his name John Maddox?
Yeah.
The newly minted city attorney's name is John Maddox. John Maddox explains in this clip the relationship that Charlottesville now has with its outside counsel, Gentry, Locke, who missed a filing deadline with the new zoning ordinance. This missed filing deadline caused a default judgment with a lawsuit where 9 homeowners in Charlottesville are suing the city over a new zoning ordinance that didn't do the proper traffic study before it was implemented. This missed filing deadline caused humiliation with Charlottesville. John Maddox used last night's meeting as an opportunity to explain what he has done since getting into office as the city attorney, including having some leverage now over Gentry Locke, specifically free work and then reduced rates and a replacement of middle average attorneys in this law firm with senior partners in this law firm. Here's John Maddox. Any other show, this is the lead of the show. The city attorney making dad jokes in this commentary. Cheesy jokes about a movie. Eventually this will turn into a movie with a script written by John Grisham, and he hopes Danny DeVito plays his role in the movie. I'm literally listening to a city attorney cracking dad jokes in front of 200 activists, not reading the room or understanding the temperature of what's before him. Here's John Maddox on the relationship with Gentry Locke, ladies and gentlemen.
In regards to the zoning case as well. Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Sanders. I wanted to speak to you all a little bit tonight about and provide a status report on the city's claim with respect to Gentry Locke, who has been representing us in handling the White v. Charlottesville zoning matter. I'm providing this in this setting. I think a lot of this information will not be new to you. I've provided it to you in a more confidential setting. However, I feel like the case has progressed to the point where I can be a little bit more open and it will not affect our litigation posture at all. So as a refresher, back in May an attorney who was representing the city from Gentry, Locke, failed to meet a filing deadline, failed to file an answer in time, which resulted in early June the plaintiffs moving for default judgment against the city. And on June 30th, the court denied our motion for relief from that default judgment and to file a late answer, which, of course, as you know, set us into a tailspin. I'm sure someday John Grisham will write a legal thriller about all the things that happened after that. I hope Danny DeVito plays me in the movie. But without getting in too far into that, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, obviously at that point, we had a claim against Gentry Locke for possible malpractice. And evaluating how to respond to that, we had to consider a couple of factors. First, we had to consider how we're going to protect our financial interests. And to that extent, that's why I approached Gentry Locke. We worked out a deal, which I can now tell you the full, and give you the full story on. First of all, the firm agreed that they were going to continue to represent us in the case. I'm sorry, it's a lot of noise.
We're trying to.
I can hardly hear myself think. Okay, I'll proceed. So first of all, we want to protect our financial interests. That meant ensuring that the firm would cover our expenses. We would not be paying any fees while they tried to correct this mistake. And they agreed to that. Second of all, we had to ensure that we had competent representation going forward. Now, it wouldn't have benefited us to change horses midstream, find new counsel. I mean, it was an option, but we would have had to pay to get new counsel up to speed, which would be an expensive proposition. And so in lieu of that, the deal we struck with Gentry Locke, we gave them a chance to correct the mistake. If they were successful in that, then we would move forward with them, and we would pay them reduced fees moving forward. If they were not successful, they agreed that they would repay the city all of the money that we had paid for the lawsuit and liquidated damages of $150,000. That was if they were unable to get the court to overturn its ruling. Now, fortunately, as y'all know, a week or two ago, the court decided to, on our motion to reconsider, they reconsidered their decision and decided to overturn the default judgment. We're now back to where we're able to litigate the case on the merits. One reason I wanted to talk to y'all about this in this setting is Gentry Locke screwed up. They didn't do a good job in that, but since then they have acted admirably. They have acted just how I would hope they'd do. They own the mistake, and they provided very competent representation ever since. At my request, they removed the attorney who was representing the city and who missed the deadline, and replaced them with some of their senior counsel. Michael Finney, who's the head of their litigation section, has been representing us very competently ever since, and also Monica Monday, who is one of the very best appellate lawyers in the state. It was through their efforts, working very closely with, I got to shout out our NDS staff and some of our public works staff, and even some members, some citizens in the community who worked very closely with us to help put together the defense of the judge that ultimately got him to change his mind on the default judgment ruling. So I want to let y'all know that we're back on track. I'm going to be entering in this agreement with Gentry Locke. We're going to be paying reduced fees moving forward, which should save us some money as we continue to litigate the case. And we're very hopeful that when we get the case before the judge on the merits, that we will prevail and the city will have the zoning that you all voted for. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I wanted to provide.
Thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate your viewership. Jerry had to help someone with a real estate deal, and we will talk about all of these topics tomorrow. Thank you again, and we look forward to having you join us the rest of the week. Actually, I believe that Chief Kochis will be with us tomorrow, and I'm very interested in hearing what he has to say and his, I know, very measured response to what happened last night.